This lesson, we're going to go over Mesopotamia. Make sure that you're using your guided note sheet that you were given in class so that you can fill in the blanks and follow along. Also, at the end, there's a few questions, so make sure that you're answering them because I will be checking this assignment in class. Okay, so let's get started. Mesopotamia, land between two rivers, and this is on topic 4. You should have already watched the What is a Civilization lesson at this point and the first Mesopotamia video that I have posted. So, to recap what a civilization is, a civilization is a group of people living and working together for the purpose of creating an organized society. A civilization has 8 features that make it a strong and successful civilization. So, these are they need to have cities within the civilization, governments and laws because we need order, writing, a division of labor, social classes, public buildings and structures, religion, and art. The location of all civilizations is determined by the resources of the land. So if the land is not able to accommodate these resources, it doesn't make for a good place for a civilization. So technically, a civilization probably would not prosper there. Okay, so finding a perfect location and why Mesopotamia is a perfect location. So early humans were traveling the world to find the best location to settle permanently. They found a place in the region called the Fertile Crescent. The In Mesopotamia, it's known as the land between two rivers because it is in between two major waterways that would help for a good location for a civilization to start to flourish. It was perfect location. It offered rich, fertile land that was perfect for farming. It also brought animals to the area because animals would go to those two rivers to drink water. You had a good access source for water, and it made things a lot easier as far as building a civilization around this river area. The geography of Mesopotamia. So Mesopotamia is located in present day Iraq. This is in the Middle East, and major physical features that this has would be the two major rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates, and the Fertile Crescent. This whole area of very rich soil, which things can grow very easily. It also has the Persian Gulf. Mesopotamian civilization is a part of a region called the Fertile Crescent, which means it has a lot of area where it's really good for farming, as you can see in that map below with the red area that shows you where Mesopotamia was. The civilization was built along the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers, which meant they had access to very clean water and they had the animals that would obviously go to that area. So having that water source was extremely vital to that civilization. So, the beginning of agriculture. The rivers flowed from the mountains down to the Persian Gulf, and early settlers farmed the land and used the resources from the land to improve life. So they would use timber from the wood to create boats, and they would use the metals and stone for tools. Cities developed along the rivers, and early settlers had to irrigate the land along the banks of the river in order to grow their crops. So irrigation is a means to control the water in the rivers. Today we use irrigation in the form of a sprinkler system where we just flip a switch or set them manual or automatically, and our sprinklers will go ahead and water our crops, and they will water our grass on our lawn and stuff like that. This was a ancient way to water the crops that needed to be that needed to be watered. All right, so creating order. Due to the population rising in Mesopotamia, it was important to create order. The first system used to create order was a division of labor. So, what this means is every person in the civilization had a different job to create a successful and well rounded civilization. You had people that specialized in farming, you had people that specialized in law, you had people who specialized in different things so that they knew exactly what they needed to do, and everyone could create order together as a civilization. Second system used to create order was a social hierarchy. This meant that every person was ranked into a certain rank or a social class level. The rank of a family was determined by the job you had in the civilization. So jobs that were very hard labor were always at the bottom of the pyramid, while the less physically demanding jobs were always up at the top part of the pyramid. Independent empires made the large area of Mesopotamia easier to control. So each empire had their own laws, armies, government, and leaders. And oftentimes the empires would be competitive with each other for control over which land inside the civilization they would have. So the first empire. The people who lived in Sumer were called Sumerians, and they existed from 3000 to 1800 BCE. So BCE, just to remind you guys, it means before Common Era. Think negative numbers. This is before it goes into our current time frame. The empire of Sumer had many cities, and they shared the same culture and traded with one another. Inventions in Sumer that they're known for would be the agricultural society. They created a surplus of food so people didn't constantly have to go out and find their next meal all day long. If you have a surplus, you're able to devote your time to other things. And then they are also known for the wheel, which they used the plow for farming, and the cart for trading. And then cuneiform, which was a first form of writing system. It kind of looks like little sticks and arrows, but that's what their writing system was. The second empire that came into play was the people were the people that lived in Babylon. They were called Babylonians, and they existed from 1800 to 1200 BCE. Also BCE, before Common Era. The inventions of the Babylonians that they're known for are the calendar. So they would know when to use the rivers, when the rivers would flow over. They used that calendar for a farming system so that they were able to develop their crops and not have to worry about not having a drought or not having enough food to feed everybody. The next thing that they're known for is law, and this came into play with King Hammurabi. King Hammurabi had a very clear set of rules and a clear set of punishments to make sure that everything was very fair and well thought out. The thought that the laws were given to Hammurabi by the thought was that the laws were given to Hammurabi by the gods in order to keep people from rebelling. Hammurabi's code was also a very, very strict code and almost brutal to a certain point. He's the idea that developed an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. So whatever it is that you do to somebody, they have the right to do that right back to you. It also unfortunately goes into play when you talk about accidents, and that's kind of where it gets into a messy situation today with the way we think of morals. But it was a way for him to make sure that there was law and order exactly the way that there should be in that civilization. The third empire who lived in Mesopotamia was Assyria, and they were called the Assyrians. This existed from 1200 to 539 BCE, also before Common Era. And the empire of Assyria were fierce warriors with many war strategies. They conquered Babylonia and took control of a large part of Mesopotamia. Their inventions that they're known for would be trade. They used boats to trade goods, and then war. They trained to take over other areas, even if they had walls to protect them. They were very skilled warriors, and that's the majority of what they're known for is their fighting abilities. So the religion in Mesopotamia, the people who lived in Mesopotamia were polytheistic. This means that they believed in many gods, poly meaning many. Each empire had a ziggurat in the center of their land. A ziggurat is a house of worship, and their ziggurat in the center of their land was used for many reasons. It was used for religious ceremonies, school to teach cuneiform writing, and then official meetings with the kings. Each empire was connected by their religion, and it is thought that the gods and the goddesses were assigned to the empire to protect it. The gods and goddesses were also important because they dealt with nature and daily life. So basically, they used it as a reason to explain their existence, that they're doing so well because they have this god or goddess protecting them, or they're doing so well because this god or goddess is making sure that the crops are growing, that things are going well, that bad people aren't getting in. All of those things were attributed to their gods and goddesses, which helped them be very connected to their religion in everyday life. Okay, so this point, you're going to go ahead and answer these questions for the map reading of Mesopotamia on your handout. So the questions you're answering are: what two rivers run through the Fertile Crescent, as you can see through this map on the screen? What body of water do the rivers float into? And what sea is located to the west of the rivers? And then what is the area called that is shown by the pink color on the map? If you need to pause this to watch the video, to watch the picture while you answer your questions, go ahead and do so. If you have any extra questions about Mesopotamia or the lessons that have been posted, make sure you write them down and let me know in class so that we can go over them. And make sure that you complete the assignment on time so that I can check them.